There have been a few mech games released over the past few years, and none that have focused on PvP have succeeded. Can Mecha BREAK? The game starts off with a tutorial mission, and it feels a bit similar to Armored Core with how the mech moves and how you engage in combat. The opening mission is also very flashy, a lot of lore dumping to set up the game's story. I can't say that the story is very interesting, something about humanity being nearly extinct, nations waging war over resources, and then you have Korite, a form of living rocks spreading and taking over humans and mechs. But once you're actually in the game, it feels really good to pilot the mechs. They are fast, even the slowest mechs have a dodging ability and can fly. From the get-go there are 12 different types of mechs that you can access and fly, and they are broken down into attackers, defenders, brawlers, snipers and support. They are further broken down into light, medium, heavy and ultra heavy. It's pretty self-explanatory that the light ones are quicker and the heavy ones are slower, and then they all have different weapons and equipment as well. The light attacker, for example, literally flies around attacking enemy mechs, while the ultra heavy defender turns into basically a fortress with miniguns and a heavy cannon. And then of course you have everything in between that as well. It feels like a good mix. I think everyone can find something they like to play here. The matches get very hectic, a lot happening at all times and mechs shooting and flying around everywhere. I like it. It feels like a battlefield, there is always something to attack or dodge. It's a good type of chaos. The balancing feels a bit off, the heavy mechs have a ton of attack power and survivability. It doesn't feel like the light and medium mechs can deliver enough damage to be competitive, especially if you have a good support. There is no roll queue here either, so with a bad lineup you could get rolled pretty easily. I do however think I prefer not having a roll queue over being forced to have specific roles, and with time I think all of this will get better as people get better at handling the mechs and balancing patches start to roll out. As the gameplay is pretty quick, all mechs have a pretty generous auto aim for almost all weapons. You can and have to manually aim as well, but the lock-on is super generous. I think this is a good way of solving the fast-paced combat, as I don't think many would hit anything otherwise, but I think it's too strong. Hopefully they will tweak this down a bit, as sometimes you just have to have the enemy on screen and you will target it. And in combat you have up to 3 different skills, a right and a left click for attacks, you have a dodge, you can also dodge in any direction, and then you can also fly. Even if the big mechs are slow, they can still fly and traverse the environment. I like that you have a lot to work with here, and it's all pretty easy to understand and use, and I don't think the learning curve for each mech is steep at all. There is no denying that the game have opted for a style very similar to the Gundam series, at least the later ones. I do think all the mechs looks great, a lot of details and moving parts, they are all very distinct from one another, and if you like you can change color, pattern, insignia for each mech. I think the maps are equally strong visually, very distinct locations, they have added some good verticality with some floating platforms and so on, you have caves and bases as well. Then the game is also free to play, and how does a game that is free to play make money? Of course through a shop with items. You have skins, paints, outfits and other supplies. I think there will be some confusion here as there is a PvPvE mode and you can buy weapons and other equipment in the shop for that game mode. But for the pure PvP modes, I can't see anything that would give a player an advantage. You can make an argument for the mechs. There are 3 right now that you can buy. You can get in-game currency to buy these 3 mechs as well. It's hard to judge how long it will take as you have missions that will grant you almost 2,000 of this in-game currency. I do think there are some other ways to get the currency, but I don't know if these missions will be monthly, weekly, or they're just because the game is new. Per match I think you get around 100 to 200 of the currency maybe, and with these mechs costing 15,000 it could potentially take a long time. Overall I think the shop is fine, but who knows, it might change in the future. But for now you won't find any pay to win aspect for the regular PvP modes outside of the 3 mechs. There is however an interesting aspect to the store, and that is that you can sell items yourself. There is a built-in auction house where you can sell your stuff for the game's premium currency. I've never really seen this in a game like this, so I don't really know what to think about it or how it will affect the game in the long run, but that's at least one thing you should have in the back of your mind if you're going to play this regularly. For the game's game modes, you have 6v6 with objectives, you have 3v3, both of these can be played in ranked or casual. Then there are single player challenges for each mech, you have a training and custom game mode, and then there is also the PvPvE extraction type game mode. Here you're dropped into a large map where you kill, loot and extract. You have bases with enemies that drop loot to collect. There are also other teams on the map for some PvP action amidst the looting. There are events, storms. I think it's a cool game mode, and I like that they have something outside of just arena PvP. The extracted loot can be used in further runs, making you more powerful. Here is also where the shop items come in. You can outright buy items instead of extracting, buying you an advantage for sure. The game mode will already be unbalanced as you have different tiers of loot you can find, and I think this is the best way of doing pay to win if you're going to have it in a game, leaving it for one specific mode where the advantage is less relevant. Not that I support this at all. What I would like to see in the future is maybe a single player campaign or co-op missions. I don't think this would be a bad thing to add in the future if the game survives. I think the gameplay and the enemy AI is sufficient, and I would love to see that being added to the game. Overall, I have had a lot of fun in the game and will continue to have. I think Mecha BREAK could have a bright future if they fix the balancing a bit, add more options for earning customization options outside of spending money, make it also a bit easier to earn the new mechs when they come out. You do start with 12 out of 15 available, which is good. I'm just afraid that the longer the game exists, the more invasive the microtransactions will become, alienating players. But for now, it's definitely worth trying out, especially as it's free to play. Thank you so much for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!